Welcome to How Else Will We Know with Fleur. I interview people who have a connection to food allergies, plus other interesting topics as well. Let me tell you what happened to me back in 1951 during my... This show is meant for fun and to inspire thinking and curiosity. We are not giving legal or medical advice of any kind. Thanks for joining. And you don't know what's going to happen. Hello, Food Allergy Nation. I am Fleur, and I am back with my interview series called How Else Will We Know, where I like to interview people who have something to do with the food allergy community. Today, I will be interviewing Pamela Willson, who is also known online as the Picky Bookworm, where she has a thriving business and juggles about 1,000 balls in the air at one time. She is a proofreader. She is a big supporter of the writing community online, and she and her husband both have food allergies. So I'm ready to get this interview started right now. Hi, Pamela. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am really excited to interview you. One thing that everyone knows online is that you also go by the Picky Bookworm. That is your business name and your online name.
She is my alter ego, I think.
Okay, that's nice.
I think that was she. I mean, yeah, it's definitely my business name. But at the same time, I have online friends who don't always know my first name. And so they just call me Picky.
Right. I think I did that when we first spoke. I said Picky.
Yeah. So it's, I kind of consider the Picky Bookworm to be kind of almost an alter ego. And, she allows me to be my nerdy self online, without feeling like any kind of judgment from myself or feeling like I'm getting judgment from other people. So it's, I like her. She's cool.
I totally agree. And I'm excited about interviewing you because finally you are in the hot seat. You're used to interviewing people on your podcast, all your different podcasts, so many, about one, two, three a week that you do, but you're the interviewer.
I do for sure one a week. Not only I will like bonus episodes. My friend Jay, he's a publisher and editor from Papillon du Père. I know you know him on Twitter. He's a good friend of mine.
Yes.
And he will come on for like bonus Ask the Publisher episodes.
Those are good.
We do. Thank you. He has a lot of experience. So his episodes are always super informative and I love doing them. And then we do our monthly Golden Girls Book Club podcast episodes. I know they're so much fun. Yeah. And the hostess because it's my podcast, I'm the hostess, yes. But I don't really consider myself the hostess of the Golden Girls. I kind of just consider myself the facilitator, just kind of directing the questions, making sure that everybody has like equal discussion time, that kind of thing. So I would say it's a full-time job, but it's so much fun. It doesn't feel like work.
No. And it's obvious that you enjoy doing it. And I was trying to think back when you and I first met online, because I know it started for some reason because of destiny, my favorite word. You and I both tweeted at the same time about how we wanted to start like an exercise routine and just to, build some muscle tone or get stronger or just healthier. Yes. And so we started tweeting to each other every day saying, I lifted my 5-pound weights 10 times. I think I had to start with 2 pounds. I think I was really not that strong, but I started with 2
I was
pounds.
Not even. Yeah.
And then we said, let's move this to direct message because it was just too many, all of Twitter was thinking, why do we have to see your whole workout back and forth? And then we invited other people. And then you interviewed me as an author on your podcast.
Yes.
And then you read my first chapter of my book on your first chapter Friday, right?
I did.
And then somehow we started talking with a group, and then you created the Golden Girls book chat, which we do once a month now together.
Yes.
We just did it last night, which
we
was
did.
Super fun. That was 7 Roses by L.L. Tremblay. That was fun. I mean, so we've just developed just a very organic friendship over time. And I have finally talked you into getting into the hot seat so I can get some questions and answers out of you.
And to be honest, I have done one other podcast where I was the interviewee. That podcast, I do not believe is published yet. The name of it, I believe, is going to be Worlds by Ro. His name is Ro Seymour. And I was very honored to be one of his first guests because when he was on my podcast, he actually told me that my podcast inspired his.
Wow.
So that made me just so happy because, indie books and indie authors and, supporting all of you guys is just, it's so much fun for me. Like I said earlier, it does not feel like a job. It really doesn't. Working on my website is my way to relax. Doing my podcast is, especially during the pandemic, when we weren't going places, we weren't traveling, it was my way of once a week, just getting that peer-to-peer conversations with other adults or with other people. As much as I love my husband and as much as I love spending time with him, I love having that interaction with other people as well.
Absolutely.
So my podcast was just a really great way to get to do that. And, it was during the pandemic that I really decided to start taking my website and my blog seriously. It was during the pandemic that I joined Twitter and found all of you wonderful people.
Yes.
So the pandemic in a lot of ways was really great for me. I mean, it was a terrible time. It was, do not get me wrong. It was absolutely terrible, but but it was also the catalyst for a lot of really great things for a lot of really great people. And that makes me really happy.
Kind of like a silver lining to something bad, right? You can say, but there was some positive that came out of it.
Yes, very much. Almost every single author I think that I have interviewed and spoken to has, I'm like, when did you start writing your book? And they're like, well, I started writing it like 20 years ago, but the pandemic hit and I figured now is the best time to do it. And so there's a lot of pandemic book babies out there.
There are. And it's pretty crazy because I started writing my book like at the end of 2019. And I just figured it would take a year or two as I wrote it and I started it and enjoyed it. And then when the pandemic hit, so I didn't start it because of the pandemic, I was already writing it, but that just obviously opened up a lot more free time as we were not allowed to leave the house. So
get groceries.
It worked out for me. It worked out for me. But
and I had actually kind of done the same thing with the Picky Bookworm. I had started it in late 2019, but then 2020 hit, pandemic hit, we all get sent home for months on end. And that was, when I just kind of started taking it seriously. I had more time to read, I had more time to plan posts. And, I still wasn't posting consistently. That's something that I struggle with. But, it was that, again, it was that social release that, we all desperately needed during that time.
Yeah. It kind of gave me a new appreciation for seeing people and going out and doing things because it's so easy for me to get wrapped up in what I'm doing and work and not go out and see people because we have technology, right? Well, it made me realize that's not enough. You need all of it, like actually actively seek out people online and in person. It made a big difference to me. And speaking of other people, you and your husband both have food allergies, but they're not the same allergy, right?
No, they're not. I have a gluten allergy.
Okay.
And my husband has an onion allergy.
Okay.
It's very, very rare. You tell someone that you have a gluten allergy or you tell someone that you have a gluten intolerance. Most people now will know, okay, that means you can't have bread. That means you can't have, this or that.
Mhm.
And my husband, he tells someone that he is allergic to onions, and they automatically go to, oh, you just don't like them.
Really?
And
They don't believe it.
yes, my husband and I went to,
Mhm.
and he wanted a burger. So he
Okay.
orders a burger, and he very specifically tells our server, no onions, I'm allergic.
Mhm.
And she goes, oh, I don't like onions either. And
Well.
and I kind of had that same reaction. I looked at her and I went, no,
Mm-mm.
I don't like onions. Onions kill him. It's bad enough that he would pretty much be dead by the time the ambulance got here.
Wow. So it's a severe reaction.
It is severe anaphylactic reaction.
Okay. That's
And
scary. Mhm.
so it is very scary. And when we first got together, he told me that he had this onion allergy. And I'm like, this is fantastic because I don't like onions. I, can totally get away with not eating them. Totally fine.
Nice.
And it's more difficult to avoid foods with onion than it is to avoid foods with gluten, because
Mhm.
there are onions in so many things
There
that
is.
you just don't even really think about that
Mm-mm.
there's onions. I mean, there's onions in salsa, there's onions in spaghetti sauce, and if, like spaghetti sauce is totally fine. He can have spaghetti sauce mainly because those onions have been cooked so much that
Mhm.
the particular chemical that he is allergic to has been cooked out of them.
Okay.
But
So raw onions are what he
fresh
cannot have.
onions,
Okay.
onions in salsa, onions that have
What about
not.
the spice, like in a little container, a spice jar? Like, can he have spice?
He can do onion powder.
Okay.
So we will occasionally, if there's a recipe that calls for onion that just wouldn't taste right without it, then
Right.
we will use the onion powder. Most of the
Okay.
time, we just don't do onions at all. We're just like, if it
Right.
calls for onions, we'll literally just cook it without onions. I did almost kill him one day.
Oh
I
no.
will confess online that a coworker of mine had made me a batch of New Orleans red beans and rice.
Okay.
That's one of those recipes that it comes naturally with onions. You just don't think about the fact that it has onions in it. I had brought home this batch of
Mhm.
beans and rice. We sit down, we get ready to eat. He takes a couple bites, looks down at his bowl, and goes, I have to go throw up now. Sets the bowl down and runs to the bathroom. I, of course, have emetophobia, so I set my bowl down and run outside.
You went outside, so he
I
ran
went
to the
outside.
bathroom.
He runs to the bathroom to throw up. I run outside so I won't hear him throw up. I have severe emetophobia. So I like run downstairs where I can't hear what's going on, and he comes out of the bathroom, and I spent the rest of the evening, which was before bed, which was I think about 4, maybe 5 hours, just watching him. Like, you doing okay? Do you need Benadryl?
Mhm.
Are you doing okay? And, finally, by the time I went to bed, I was comfortable enough with the fact that he wasn't going to die. And
That's
I have,
scary.
I have been a lot more careful ever since then. Somebody will offer to like cook me something, and I'm like, does it come with onions? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, don't cook onions.
No.
Don't,
Mhm.
my family's really good about it.
That's good.
Whenever we have like holiday parties or something, they will always make sure to point out, okay, this is the gluten-y food, this
Mhm.
is the non-gluten food, this is the non-onion food, so my family is like really good about it too, which is fantastic.
That is
So
fantastic. And I think this is the problem with food allergies is that we're all humans. So you mess up say once every 10 years. And it's just, no, like, how
Oh,
can I do
the
this? But
guilt is real. I am pretty sure that when I almost killed him, we weren't even married yet, and we are celebrating 4 years tomorrow.
okay. Happy
So
anniversary early.
thank
I'll stick
you.
that in. But
Um,
that was a wake-up call. Like that was a really good chance to have a learning opportunity after that,
yes,
to tighten
yes,
the reins. I think that's what happens to people. We had a pretty severe scare when my son was 3, and I still think, oh my goodness, I cannot believe this. I can't believe myself. But it motivated me up until today still to
yeah.
do better. What happened is I had a purse, of course, and I changed purses, and everything in my old purse didn't make it to my new purse, including my son's EpiPen, which we'd never used. And I don't think I really comprehended food allergies yet. And I knew he couldn't have things, but I didn't understand all the nuances. I just carried the EpiPen usually. And that day was the day that he got his hands on peanut at a friend's house. And I didn't have the EpiPen, and it was terrible. We had to call the ambulance, and they asked me over the phone, do you have an EpiPen? No. I mean, it was terrible.
I do. Normally I do.
I said that.
Yeah.
I'm like, I normally do. And we were at a friend's house who turned out was about 5 or 6 minutes from emergency services. Whereas our house at the time, we had a fire department at the end of the street. So 5 minutes went by. That is too long. It was
an
a miracle.
eternity.
And
Yeah.
he was throwing up, and his cheek, he didn't swallow it. His cheeks started swelling up, which the firemen told me when they arrived, if he had swallowed that, that would have been his throat. And so, of course, I was just like, we'd never had it happen. I believed the doctor, but you don't get it until it happens. I don't think you understand it, but
it doesn't quite, because it hits your brain. Like it's a very intellectual thing.
Mm-hmm.
But then, especially for women, for the nurturers, for lack of a better word, we are typically, in society, the moms are typically, and this is not always the case, they are typically the ones that are home with the kids all day. They're typically the ones that go to the doctor's appointments, and they are typically the ones that know all of these things. So it's, one thing to have it intellectual of knowing, yes, my son has this allergy, but then once it happens, it hits in those emotions. And once it hits in those emotions, that's when it really takes hold.
You're right.
That fear that I could have lost my husband before we were even married, that's terrifying. That hits you right in those emotions. That's why I'm more careful.
I think you're right. And that makes me realize, what's something that I say when I try to explain people, like, not, kind of the guilt, but like the responsibility parents feel for children with food allergies is because if I had handed my son poison, he would drink it. They trust us 1,000%, especially the moms. I'm sure the dads too, but like you said, the moms are usually the main caregiver, and kids trust you 100%. You hand them poison, they'll drink it. So you've got to make sure there's no peanut, there's no nothing, right?
Yeah.
Or they will not question you, that they trust you completely. But now I'm seeing, you're right about husbands too. In that type of relationship, do we not try to take care of our husbands as well? And they trust us so much to give them safe food. Yes. To not give them their allergens, to not do anything harmful. And that responsibility is still there. Everyone has that responsibility, but you know what I mean is the nurturer, like you were saying.
Yeah.
I am happy to hear that your husband survived that misstep. And I know you still feel that on your heart, but like you said, learning opportunity, same for me. And by the way, I did not give my son the peanut. That was his friend, same aged friend who was 3 years old. I still hold him 100% responsible.
Well, even though 3-year-olds they just have no idea.
He was sharing. Sharing is caring.
Yeah.
He hid a little mini Snickers in the couch is what happened. That little boy did. And he shared it with my son. Now, I'm sorry. How sweet is that?
That is super sweet.
I mean,
And
horrifying nightmare situation, but
3-year-olds, they just have absolutely no idea to
no.
ask, do you have food allergies?
No, 3-year-olds are very insensitive about food allergies, I learned.
I would like to add a plug for medieval times for your viewers because they are very, very, very good about handling food allergies. My husband and I, we actually get to come to the one in Dallas tomorrow.
Oh, nice.
But we're not going to have time to come see you. I was very sad about that. We're only there overnight. So,
but still, that's fun. And it's a nice medieval times in Dallas. It is a good one. We really like it.
Our bucket list is for to go to everyone in the United States. So we've already been to the one in Orlando. Or close by Orlando. I don't even know if it's in Orlando proper. But when we were down there, each row has its own server, or there's like a server for 2 rows or something. I'm not exactly sure how it works. I think it's 1 per row. But our server like went down the line and asked everybody, do you have any food allergies? And so that, and they were prepared for, if you have a gluten allergy, they were like, hey, don't give you the bread, or, the dessert was supposed to be pound cake. So they had like little cups of ice cream that they gave me instead of the pound cake. So they're very, very, very cognizant of food allergies. Very fun times. So for your viewers, if you ever have a chance to go to medieval times and you have food allergies, great place to go and great time for everybody. So
I'm more than happy to say, yes, medieval times is great. And it's fun. It's really a fun outing. I'm happy to hear you all are doing that. You're going to love the Dallas one. It's really good.
I am really excited. I'm hoping that our night wins this time, because our night did not win on our honeymoon, and I was very sad about that. So I may have to like ask them when I get there, hey, can you like put us in the winning night section?
Yeah, which one wins? You know the story. Just tell us.
Yeah. Which one wins?
I wonder if people do that. I bet they do. Yes, do that. I'd like to know. You won't tell the audience.
I will ask them if there's a way to do that, because I'm like, I just really want to sit in the winning night section. That would be fun.
So we know your husband is severely allergic to onion.
Yes.
That's his reaction. What is your reaction to gluten, and how did you figure out you had this allergy?
I learned that a gluten allergy and a gluten intolerance will actually manifest usually in adulthood during a time of physical stress or emotional stress.
Okay.
Then I don't remember the specific trigger, but looking back, once I realized that I had the gluten intolerance, looking back, mine was the same way. It manifested during a period of just emotional and physical stress that I had been going through. And I noticed what was going on because the nicest way that I can say it is that my digestive system completely shuts down. And it is very painful. Probably the first 2 or 3 times before I was able to go fully gluten-free, the first 2 or 3 times, I would have to call in sick to work because I wouldn't be able to sleep. I wouldn't be able to get comfortable. I would just, I think the first time it happened, I was drinking Coke because I just thought that I had gas, and that it was not that. It was basically my entire digestive system had just basically shut down. And it's very, very, very painful. My particular reaction is not typical. Celiac or gluten intolerance, it is not an allergy that is going to present the same for everyone. You really just have to pay attention to your own body and how your body reacts.
Right. That seems like it would make it harder to narrow down if 5 people have celiac or they're gluten intolerant and all 5 have different symptoms.
Right.
That makes it hard.
And it does make it more difficult. But it's one of those things, like in my particular case, it's one of those things that I would notice and I'd be like, okay, what did I eat yesterday? And I started noticing that every time I had that reaction, it was because I ate bread for dinner the night before, because I had pasta, or, because I had something that had gluten in it.
Right.
Once I started, cutting those things out of my diet, paying attention to how your body feels. Do you feel particularly bloated after eating a pasta dish? Do you feel nauseated after eating tabbouleh, for example? Those are both reactions that I've had. So, it's just
tabbouleh.
It's really just
okay. Huh.
Tabbouleh is made with bulgur wheat.
Okay.
So
yeah. See, I had never even thought of that.
Learned that way.
Okay. Tabbouleh has gluten in it. And a lot of things have gluten.
A lot of things have gluten. There is a quinoa version of tabbouleh.
Okay.
And I love tabbouleh. So that's it's like one of my favorite snacks. So Google was my absolute best friend when I was first having to go gluten-free, because I would not necessarily know whether a particular food, the basics, bread, pasta, those are the things that you kind of know about. But, when it comes to Kit Kat or Twix or, those little treats that, Thin Mints from Girl Scouts, Cheez-Its. And there were a few things that I was totally fine with. I had a friend that I was over at his house and he walks in the kitchen, turns around, gives me this horrified look and goes, "You can't have Twinkies anymore." And I just looked at him and went, well, considering Twinkies are gross and I've never liked them to begin with, totally fine with that.
Some people love Twinkies. I don't know what it is. They're crazy about them. So
I don't
I guess everyone has their thing, their little kind of junky treat they like. Like some people like Twinkies, some people like Cheez-Its.
If I could figure out how to make them myself, I would be totally fine. There was a lot that I felt like I had to give up. There's definitely options now. There were hardly any options 8 years ago, 9 years ago.
It's a huge difference.
Yeah.
We had to buy a lot of products online, groceries, before it was popular because we didn't have a choice.
Yes, absolutely. You go to Walmart, for example, and their gluten-free section is huge now. It used to be like 3 little shelves, and now it's like this big, huge section. So there's a lot of knowledge and a lot of visibility more to gluten intolerance. But I would like to also say that if you have food allergies, do not be afraid to advocate for yourself when it comes to your food allergies, because I have had to have servers remake an entire salad because they put croutons on the salad. But I went in and I ordered a chicken Caesar salad, no croutons, and it comes out buried in croutons. So I take it back up to the counter and I said, I ordered no croutons. I am gluten intolerant. I cannot have the bread. This is an allergy, blah, blah, blah. And so she's like, okay, I'll have them take care of it. She brings it back to me, and all they did was take out the big chunks of croutons and and they left all the little crumbs. Took it back up to the counter, and I said, no, this will make me sick. I was like, you have to I said, first of all, I ordered no croutons. You did not give me the order that I asked for. So it's on top of the fact that you messed up my order. You're also giving me an allergen. You're also giving me something that could make me sick. So the tiny little crumbs, I'm going to notice those tomorrow. No, you have to remake the whole salad.
Right.
So do not, if you have a food allergy, do not be afraid to advocate for yourself. And if necessary, be specific with the person handling your food on what you can or cannot handle. Real quick, one more tangent, I swear.
Yeah, it's fine.
Firehouse subs is another place that they are amazing at handling allergies. I will call them and tell them my husband has an onion allergy. They will change their gloves. They will wipe down the whole entire counter. They will get new utensils for the vegetables and the stuff that they will be putting on his sandwiches. They are so careful to make sure that they are not going to cause somebody undue harm. If you like restaurants that handle food allergies really, really well, Firehouse subs, they got you covered.
Okay, that's good to know. I'm always raving about Outback Steakhouse. We always go there when we travel. We go there in town because they really pay attention. We've never had a bad experience at Outback, and we've statistically been there enough that one could have happened and we would have been more understanding. But so far, 0 bad experiences at Outback. They seem to really genuinely care as well. And it's important to call those out so that they get the respect that they deserve for going out of their way and making a difference like that. Okay, so you said tomorrow is your 4-year anniversary.
Yes.
And I know that we've talked a little bit about you two wanting to start a family. So have you ever discussed with your husband, just the possibility of having a child with food allergies? It's pretty high for anyone in the population right now. But if someone has food allergies, is it higher? I don't know.
It's not something that we really have discussed, mostly because the things that we are allergic to, we just don't keep in the house.
Right.
When it comes to, we have gluten-y bread for my husband, very rarely. But when it comes to eating pasta or, things like that, then he will just eat the gluten-free pasta. I hate onions, have absolutely no problem not having them in the house. So, unless the kiddo turns out to have a shrimp allergy or a strawberry allergy or a banana allergy, or one of those super rare ones, then it would be one of those things that we would just be careful until the kid was old enough to say, I can't breathe, or mommy, my tummy hurts, or, something like that. So I think in our cases, it would be something along those lines of just being really careful about what we feed them until we reach a point that they're able to verbalize themselves what is going on.
Right.
Which would be also probably about 4 or 5.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. When you have a child, I've seen that people are a lot more interactive with their doctors about it, probably during pregnancy, even to discuss food allergies, and then with a pediatrician. I'm not sure what they're doing right now because my son is now a senior in high school somehow. So I don't know what the trend is that doctors say. I don't know if they say, don't give them XYZ, or if they say, do give it to them. I'm not sure, but that seems like a good thing that, anyone can ask their doctor at the time. What do you recommend for a baby, toddler? Because like you said, they can't talk, right?
Yeah.
Just to be aware of what science is saying to do at the moment, because so many people have food allergies. They've learned a lot since back in my day. They didn't know that much. Let me tell you.
I always feel so old when I say something like that.
I know. Well, try saying I have a senior in high school. Then you think, that can't be right. So in addition to allergies and in addition to being married for 4 years tomorrow, those are two important factors about you. I know that you have your day job and then you have a thriving business with so many balls in the air that you're always juggling, and you're very creative. I'm always see online you're doing different things every day. You have something new you're starting and everyone gets all excited about. What's your plan as far as your Picky Bookworm online presence?
My goal is to be able to take the Picky Bookworm full time. I told my husband, our fertility journey and our conception journey has been a very long, very difficult one. I don't know that we have time for me to go into all of that, but I do have a blog post that I wrote last year about a miscarriage that I had in early 2021, and that goes into a little bit of it. But because it's been so difficult and because it's been such a long journey, once we have our child, I don't want to turn that child over to other people for 45 plus hours a week. I'm going to want to spend as much time as I can with our child. I want to be the caregiver. I want to be the person that makes lunches. I want to be the person that drives to school. And that's hard to do with a full-time day job. It really is. And my goal is to be able to take the Picky Bookworm full-time, and
which includes proofreading, right? You've been doing proofreading. That is a tough job being a proofreader. It takes a skill to do that, and you're doing it well.
It takes an eye for detail. I will tell you that. I recently bought my mom for her birthday. I bought her the second book in a series that I had either recommended the first book for her or bought the first book. I don't remember exactly what happened. I think I had recommended it to her and she was like, okay. And she just goes and she buys it. Completely sight unseen. I basically just told her, this is the title. You'll like it. Go buy it. And so when I bought her book 2, I made sure to tell her, I edited this one, Mom. It's okay. And because, my mom, like me, has been a reader her entire life, and she comes across spelling or typos or grammar issues or sentence structure issues. And, I have gotten to the point, especially with indie and self-published books, because I know that they don't always have the budget for the best editing or the best proofreading, which is why my prices are so cheap. Inexpensive, not cheap, inexpensive. Because I don't think that money should be a hindrance to having the best book that you can have.
Funny to say, here's a book, and I was the editor of the book.
Yeah. Oh, it's
That's
so
pretty cool.
It's so fun. I love being able to say that, honestly. I also proofread our friend Katie's book, Between the Birches.
Yes.
So that is another really good one.
Between the Birches was a really good story. And it's fun to think that you have a part in her series, right?
Oh, I know. Yeah.
I think that's exciting.
there's a ton of books that I have gotten to work on. And I mean, I could sit here and list the books that I have edited, the books that I have proofread, the books that I have gotten to review and read, all the books on my signed bookshelf, my signed bookshelf.
Right.
So many of them.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I get really excited when it gets talk indie books.
Well, I think it's exciting, and I understand your plight now. Your end game is you would like to take the Picky Bookworm and proofreading and all of the balls you have in the air and have that as your job so that you can be at home working around your family's schedule versus going out as a day job for your dream. Is that right?
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think that sounds wonderful. Everyone has their own version of what they want. I have really good friends that say, I will not stay home all day. I can't. There's their personality and they're a great mom. It's wonderful. We have all these choices to do it the way we want.
Yes. And, I never wanted to be like a non-working mom.
Mm-hmm.
I never wanted to be just like the stay-at-home mom. Viewers, if you are a stay-at-home mom, if you are a working mom, there is no judgment at all if you have your kids in daycare.
And there are some really good daycares. It just depends on where you are. It's just a whole bunch of different things, right? Or if you're a single parent, well,
yeah, I mean,
what are you going to do?
There's, something to be said for having that daycare that, your kids look forward to going to, or having that school that your kids look forward to going to. Mm-hmm. Because I have the Picky Bookworm and because I have that option, then to be able to choose that part and be able to have my business and my job serve me rather than the other way around, rather than me being tied to a schedule.
Right.
If I want to take, 3 hours off in the middle of the day and take my kid to the park, I want to be able to do that.
I totally understand that. Yes, I am really hopeful for you about your future and watching you build your brand and your business. And I'm excited for you. I think it's going to be really good. So let's tell everyone where they can find you online. We'll do your Twitter, your website, your podcast. Where can they find you?
My website is The Picky Bookworm. That is ThePickybookworm.com. Links to everything is pretty much on my website. There's a page for my podcast. There's a page for my online shop, where I do indie book inspired candles. I have note cards. I have tons of other digital products on there. And I am constantly designing things to go on there. So you can expect a whole lot of digital products coming really soon. And then my podcast is available on, see if I can remember all of this, Apple, Good Pods, Anchor, Spotify. And Google Podcasts. I am also in the process of putting show notes pages up for each of my podcast episodes, where you can actually go and listen to the podcast episode directly on my website. And then Twitter is at Picky Bookworm. And then you can find me on Pinterest as well. Pinterest.com/The Picky Bookworm. Those are the three places online really that I am the most.
Evidently, we spoke so long that we ran out of time and our recording stopped just at the very end. So I just wanted to say thank you to Pamela Willson, aka the Picky Bookworm, for meeting me and agreeing to sit in the hot seat and answer all my questions when she's used to being the one that asks the questions. And I will include all the ways to reach the Picky Bookworm in the About section of this video. So if you want to reach out to her, you will have a lot of options, and I am sure she would love to hear from you. And thanks for being here to watch episode number 6 of my interview series, How Else Will We Know? Because if we don't ask questions, how will we find out, right? I'm Caroline Fleur, and I'll see you next video. only way we can keep learning and growing is to keep asking questions. So we're just going to keep finding knowledge and sharing information, and we'll do it together. Thank you for watching. I'm Caroline Fleur, and we'll see you next time.